Hello, and welcome to Starting Points, where one thing leads to another. Well, this is part 2 about Gauss. I just found it fascinating. In fact, this book by E.T. Bell, the blend is more on story than on deep math, so that I get an idea of the person and their contributions, and without being overwhelmed with math, though there is the math there for those who can understand it. This part that I want to share with you, it picks up right the next paragraph after where I left off reading in part 1. Shortly after his 7th birthday, Gauss attended his first school. 7. A squalid relic of the Middle Ages run by a virile brute, one Butner, whose idea of teaching the 100 or so boys in his charge was to thrash them into such a state of terrified stupidity that they forgot their own names. More of the good old days for which sentimental reactionaries long. What he's talking about, there were people when he's writing that often speak of, well, in the old days we did it this way, and that's the way it should be done. Teaching in Canada, with its close alliance history with England, there were private boarding schools and private day schools where students were asked to sit in rank. So there'd be the head boy, or if it was a girls' school, the head girl, and the second, and so forth. Never seeming to understand what the emotional effects that might be to the people that are in these first seat and second seat, and how that might give them big heads, and nor to what it would be like to be in the last row, in the last seat, in a position which might cause some to make jokes. It just boggles my mind that lack of kindness. Nothing extraordinary happened during the first 2 years. Then in his 10th year, Gauss was admitted to a class in arithmetic. As it was the beginning class, none of the boys had ever heard of an arithmetical progression. It was easy then for the heroic Butner to give out a long problem in addition, whose answer he could find by a formula in a few seconds. The problem was of the following sort, no record of what it actually was: 81,297 plus 81,495 plus 81,693, etc., to 100,899, where the step from one number to the next is the same all along. Here, in this case, you're adding 198 to the previous term to get the next term. And a given number of terms, here, 100, are to be added. It was the custom of the school for the boy who first got the answer to lay his slate on the table The next laid his slate on top of the first, and so on, sort of a ranking there as well. Butner had barely finished stating the problem. That would have taken some time, I would think, 100 numbers, when Gauss flung his slate on the table. "There it lies," he says. "Leget it say," in his peasant dialect. Then, for the ensuing hour, while the other boys toiled, he sat with his hands folded, favored now and then with a sarcastic glance from Butner, who imagined the youngest pupil in the class was just another blockhead. At the end of the period, Butner looked over the slates. On Gauss's slate there appeared but a single number. To the end of his days, Gauss loved to tell how the one number he'd written was the correct answer and how all the others were wrong. Gauss had not been shown the trick for knowing such problems rapidly. It is a very ordinary once it is known, but for a boy of 10 to find it instantaneously by himself, it is not so ordinary. This opened the door through which Gauss passed on to immortality. Butner was so astonished at what the boy of 10 had done without instruction that he promptly redeemed himself, and to at least one of his pupils became a humane teacher. Out of his pocket, he paid for the best textbook on arithmetic attainable and presented it to Gauss. The boy flashed through the book. "He is beyond me," Buckner said. "I can teach him nothing more." By himself, Butner could probably not have done much for the young genius, but by a lucky chance, the schoolmaster had an assistant, Johann Martin Bartels, a young man with a passion for mathematics, whose duty it was to help the beginners in writing and cut their quill pens for them. Between the assistant of 17 and the pupil of 10, there sprang up a warm friendship which lasted out Bartel's life. Well, luck. Bartel did more for Gauss than to induct him into the mysteries of algebra. The young teacher was acquainted with some of the influential men of Brunswick. He now made it his business to interest these men in his find. They, in turn, favorably impressed by the obvious genius of Gauss, brought him to the attention of Karl Wilhelm Ferdinand, Duke of Brunswick. The Duke received Gauss for the first time in 1791. Gauss was then 14. The boy's modesty and awkward shyness won the heart of the generous Duke. Gauss left with the assurance that his education would be continued. The following year, Gauss matriculated at the Collegium Carolinum in Brunswick. The Duke paid the bills, and he continued to pay them until Gauss's education was finished. Before entering the Carolina College at the age of 15, Gauss had made great headway in the classical languages by private study and help from older friends, thus precipitating a crisis in his career. To his crassly practical father, the study of ancient languages was the height of folly. Dorothea Gauss put up a fight for her boy, won, and the Duke subsidized a 2 years course at the gymnasium. There, Gauss's lightning mastery of the classics astonished teachers and students alike. Well, the second great stage in Gauss's career began the first day of the 19th century, also a red-letter day in the histories of philosophy and astronomy. And that refers to Sir William Herschel, and it refers to what Herschel had done was find a new planet. And what happened in 1801 was a discovery by Giuseppe Pizzazzi, a Palermo, on the opening day of the 19th century, observed that what he at first mistook for a small comet approaching the sun, but which was presently recognized as a new planet, later named Sirius, the first of a swarm of minor planets known today. Well, I didn't know about this swarm of planets, so that was most enlightening to me. Planets like Vesta, Juno, which are asteroids, part of the asteroid belt that's between Mars and Jupiter. Now, I wanted to share this as well. His more progressive friends ascribed Gauss's conservatism to the closeness with which he stuck to his work. This may have something to do with it. For the last 27 years of his life, Gauss slept away from his observatory. This was given an observatory to be his place of work. Now he's lived through the coming of the Frenchmen into Germany, Napoleon, and being fined, which the government paid for him, and he went to, the one time he went to Berlin to please Alexander von Humboldt, a name that I've become familiar with in the last while, who did these amazing studies of the Andes, the life in along the western coast of northwest coast of South America, for example. They've named the Humboldt Current in his honor. It runs north up the coast of South America. One thing leads to another, but a man does not always have to be flying about all over the map to see what is going on. Brains and the ability to read newspapers even when they lie, and government reports especially when they lie. Now this, I'm thinking, is in part E.T. Bell speaking there, has something better than any amount of sightseeing and hotel lobby gossip. Gauss stayed at home, read, disbelieved most of what he read, thought, and arrived at the truth. And there's one last bit that I wish to share as well, to show a generosity that Gauss had. If Gauss was somewhat cool in his printed expressions of appreciation, he was cordial enough in his correspondence and in his scientific relations with those who sought him out in the spirit of disinterested inquiry. One of his scientific friendships is of more than mathematical interest, as it shows the liberality of Gauss's views regarding women scientific workers. His broad-mindedness on this respect would have been remarkable for any man of his generation. For a German, it was almost without precedent. The lady in question was Mademoiselle Sophie Germain, just a year older than Gauss. She and Gauss never met, and she died in Paris before the University of Göttingen could confer the honorary doctor's degree which Gauss recommended to the faculty. By a curious coincidence, we shall see that the most celebrated woman mathematician in the 19th century, another Sophie, getting her degree from the same liberal university many years later, after Berlin had refused her on account of her sex. Sophie appears to be a lucky name in mathematics for women, provided they affiliate with broad-minded teachers. The leading woman mathematician of our own times, Emma Noether, also came from Gothenburg, and there's a little asterisk. Came from is right. When the sagacious Nazis expelled Frau Layne Noether from Germany because she was a Jewish, Bryn Mawr College, Pennsylvania, took her in. She was the most creative abstract algebraist in the world. In less than a week of the new German Enlightenment, Gothenburg lost the liberality which Gauss cherished and which he strove all his life to maintain. It is not restricted by what sex you are. I thought this would make a perfect introduction to the next video, which will be looking at women mathematicians, women astronomers, and until then, thanks for watching, and bye for now.